Ahoy there, mateys! Welcome aboard the Riff, Raff podcast. We are the pirates of the spicy waters. Come along with us and hoist the sail. We're navigating life through story and tale. We'll help you embrace the way you're wired, sharing laughs and lessons to get you inspired. If you join us, we will help you see there are a lot of ways to sail the neurospicy sea.
No, it has not calmed anybody down when I press record, but I'm pressing it anyway because I'm thinking that we need to have some kind of constraint here. So good morning and welcome to welcome to the Riff Raff. We are having some technical difficulties today. Paul has got stony face.
Yeah. So while we're dealing with the technical issues, enjoy a bowl of sassy flakes for breakfast.
Oh man, magically delicious. So what we're jumping into today, what we had talked about previously was manufacturing and roles and trades and manufacturing and all that kind of good stuff. And after we were done, we realized we spent more than half of the time laughing, which, doesn't provide you with a lot of usable tidbits. So we decided to re-record. So this is going to be like a combo deal, I think. But first, meet the magically delicious team. Above me in the video is her royal pirateness, Sydney Elaine Butler.
Hello. I feel like I still have my morning voice. I don't know if it's a little bit gravelly today. As an aside,
Parody.
It's on theme. It's on brand. So yes, I'm Sydney Elaine Butler, and I'm neurodivergent, and you'll see many facets of my neurospiciness to this podcast. And I'm trying to find my voice and help others find their voice in this complicated world.
Oh, I'd also like to bring up another thing. Maddie, remind me about, I think it's called autistic but weird, but that's great. I'm gonna double quickly on Sydney's point there. And so in our Brady Bunch magically delicious family, Paul Coleman.
Hi.
Don't start with me.
I too am of the spicy variety. I have ADHD.
No.
No, you would never know.
Never.
I have a lovely family, 4 children, family.
Because they're spicy.
And they all wear flannel.
Yeah. So I have a lovely family, 4 kids, and a lovely wife. And we all, I have...
it's a spicy household.
Yes. Yeah. Without outing them all individually. Yeah. It's a spicy household. And my background, I come out of trades. I've been an instructor in trades for too many years to mention. Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
But what's interesting, if I may, so I've known Paul now since 2018, 2019, roughly. Maddie, the same time, give or take. We knew of each other. We're going to get to Maddie in just a second. And then Sydney is the recent addition to our spicy group, but has fit right in, which is amazing. Paul is also working towards finding his voice. And when we first started chatting, Paul was very reluctant to put his expertise out there. And in the best possible way, because he's so humble. I mean this very sincerely. You were so humble about what a good job you do that you were reluctant to put it out there because you didn't think you were doing a good job. And then I saw Paul's first interview last year and went, all right, I call Pukaka. Because, and we'll get into that in a second. Signora Cookie.
Hello. Bonjour. And hello and again.
Donde está Maddie?
Is it my time? It's my time? Okay.
It's your time. Shine, baby.
Okay. I'm Matty Dever. I'm an autistic adult, also diagnosed with ADHD in the early 80s. And I have 4 lovely kids, well, 4 lovely young adults who are all autistic, and 3 of them additionally have ADHD, which makes us a researcher's dream. Um, and our neurotypical friend's nightmare.
No,
Yeah,
no.
I know it's a joke. When you go to our place and you're neurotypical, you actually no longer are neurotypical. You become the neurodivergent. You're surrounded by 5 of us all doing parallel play and not
It's
necessarily
osmosis.
being interactive in hyper way. Well, we can be hyper, but we're just not as interactive because we enjoy parallel play so much and enjoy each other's presence. Yeah, I also the chair of the National Autism Network, and I seem to have my tentacles in many research projects about autism, and more recently, autism and AI, which is an interesting intersection. I'm done now.
Okay, just so one thing that happens, and I'm going to introduce myself in a second, is that we've all become very cognizant of what a pause is for each of us, because a pause can be interpreted as an opportunity to jump into the conversation, but the pause to the person speaking is actually just a moment to process their next thought. So we've become very cognizant of the fact that a pause might not mean what we think a pause means. It might actually mean P is for processing, not P is for pausing. So that's why I didn't say anything for a second, because I wasn't sure if Maddie was gathering their thoughts or they were done. So my name's Elizabeth Plouffe. I'm the founder of Spiro Canada and was the founder of Socially ASD, but that's going through some metamorphosis, which is very cool. And I focus on employment solutions from a broader perspective. That can be technology-based, that can be coaching, consulting, creating solutions, whatever that looks like. Our entire group is very much about building things that are with, not for. I am late discovered neurospicy, although I've always known I've always been weird, but I didn't have a label to call. Don't ever play poker.
You've always been weird lowercase, but now you're definitely uppercase weird.
Oh, I like that. Oh, somebody write that down. That was really good.
That needs to be on a shirt.
That needs to be on a shirt. Write it down. So I'm also a proud parent of 2 individuals, one of which is autistic, dyslexic, and ADHD. My husband is dyslexic. My daughter's actually just told me today she's going through to be assessed for ADHD, which, ding, 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 ding. It's highly likely. And so this motley crew comes together and with very much lived experience. One of the things we've talked about in all seriousness over and over and over again is folks that come to the table and speak for others, but don't necessarily have the voice to be doing that. They are in a position of being seen. They are in a position of potentially authority. They're in a funding position, like whatever that could be. But without lived experience informing that conversation, not that it's not valuable, it's great conversations happening, but it becomes very much about for, not with. And that's a huge distinction. And we're going to get into like the topic for a second, but it was very interesting this morning. This is why I bring up voice, because Maddie has also been, and I've said this to you before, Maddie. Maddie is an incredible advocate for pointing out things that need to change in a variety of intersectional situations. So Maddie's also in a wheelchair and has mobility, but requires assistance. And so they come at it from a very intersectional perspective. And both Maddie and Sydney identify as being members of the LGBTQ+ community. And so those voices, folks, are incredibly valuable. And what I saw this morning I would love everybody's quick opinion on, and then we'll get into the topic. So I was on Facebook very quickly, which I know is a no-no first thing in the morning from a productivity perspective, but I'm so glad I did. Somebody shared on Facebook that there is a person out there, and I will find their details, or I could ask the trusty team who have very nimble fingers. Wired Not Weird or something like that is the person. Chris is the first name.
Yeah. I'll get that to you in 2 seconds.
I know you will. Yeah. So this individual is authentically neurospicy, out there advocating, using their voice. And you may or may not have noticed in the last couple of years, which is amazing, a lot of conversation about a variety of neurospicy situations, right? Whether it's ADHD, dyslexia, autism, whatever. And these little bottom feeders come out of nowhere. Whether they are authentically ADHD or not, may have taken a 1-hour course on how to be a coach and slap a sticker on it. And then they go out pinching other people's material.
Yeah.
And everybody on this team is a content creator in some way. And have authentically, like, we are neurospicy. And not only did I see it this morning on Facebook, that this guy is actively poaching. Mike is his first name, I believe.
Yeah. So the original content creator is Chris Benillo of Autistic Not Weird, and this Mike ADHD coach has been the one that's a few times have been caught basically cutting and pasting the post that Autistic Not Weird has been posting, and cutting out the credit part and making it look like, and then adding his own credit into the actual graphic.
Actively stealing from this established individual, and then having the hoo-ha to put it out on social media. Now, Maddie, when you shared it on LinkedIn, were you aware?
I didn't know at that point.
Yeah.
I found out about it later. I found out about it yesterday. And I didn't, and thank you for flagging it for me this morning. I didn't remember that I had already reposted it. And I learned how to actually remove a repost. Didn't know how to do that until today.
Okay. So 1, we need to talk about that. But 2, can we talk quickly about having a voice? Because Paul is also a content creator. Paul creates e-learnings and video trainings. And this is a cause. And you create content for a local Christian community. You're supporting all kinds of opportunities for voices. Sydney is way out there in public speaking and engaging on podcasts and sharing all kinds of content. Maddie and I are, getting up there. What do we do? What do we, when we're trying to put voices up?
I have a quick story. If that's okay. So October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and a couple of years ago, I asked my graphic designer to make a poster more for it, just to celebrate it, and it's one of my most liked and engaged with posts on LinkedIn, Instagram. And one day I was on Instagram and I saw that someone had taken the poster and pretended like that was theirs. And that was a very frustrating moment for me. And because I have I have a company called Accessible Crates, and so I usually use Accessible Crates branding, and it was still Accessible Crates branding, but this one I didn't have my logo on it, and so I learned, I was like, because I keep posting the poster, but now it has a logo on it, and I still message the person to be like, hey, you just give credit. And, you can post it. That's fine. I have other people reach out to me, say, hey, can I post this? But and I'm like, yep, just credit me. And they do. But this person, and they never got back to me. They just didn't respond. And so that
called out.
And and that year it got more likes than I did on my post. So that was even more frustrating. And so again, reached out, but then I learned, okay, I have to make sure, even though I want it to be for the community, I have to still have my logo, even if it's small in the corner. And so that's what we've been doing moving forward. But that was a really eye-opening moment for me to just like understand that how people can just steal things, and especially in using social media, using LinkedIn, how easy they can do it and how they can trick and make it seem like it's theirs, right? And so I think we have to, your branding, like I think one of the things I learned is like ensuring your branding's on it and ensuring that and calling it out when you can, and being just aware, and kind of, I think we know to question everything, but really question everything, and really just look, like Maddie with the post yesterday, and just like seeing where the content's coming from. And I think that's all we can do. And yeah.
It's just been interesting to watch that I see this on Facebook. So it was actually Cindy, Maddie, that shared this thievery. And that's what it is, folks. Like, just let's be clear. Just because content is out for public consumption does not mean you have the right to go ahead and take it and use it for your own uses without crediting the original content creator. And the neurodivergent community has a hard enough time getting their message out there and being believed and being supported that we don't need little pretenders coming in and stealing the content. If you want to use it as a base to build an opinion piece or to call it out in a positive way and say, hey, loving to share this content from Autistic But Weird, really speaks to what I'm trying to do right now, like whatever that looks like, that part's okay. But if you pilfer somebody's stuff and you take off their branding, because this guy had to actively take off the branding, take off the blue stripe, like the content creator's done everything possible to identify it as their own. That took a heck of a process to do that.
Yeah.
And then Maddie shared it on LinkedIn innocently because it resonated with them. And then I thought, oh, that looks familiar. And I went and checked the comments. And even the content creator got on LinkedIn and said, hey, buddy, don't steal. Not to Maddie.
Yes.
Yeah.
To the person.
To the actual, the original post, yeah.
Yeah, like you can be a pirate, but in a positive way. Like,
yeah, I mean,
sharing your booty. Bounty? Don't share your booty.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, don't. Yeah. There's a place for sharing your booty, but it's not online.
I think that's called Tinder.
Yeah, or other sites. Yeah. I had a very similar situation happen with me. So back in 2020, when the pandemic was just in full throw, I spent a lot of time creating graphics to help people understand what was available, what was happening. And they were I think the most popular things I'd ever created. And about 2 months into it, I started seeing them slightly different and distorted by another person, and they were getting like it was my content that was I think they just changed the background of the borders and stuff and slapped their own thing onto it and took my credit off of it, and like it became more popular than mine. It just was like I spent all this time. I spent a lot of time making sure that people had the right data that they needed to know where to go, because parents especially it was an overwhelming time, and it was the first time anything like that had happened to me. I'd heard of other creators having their stuff, ripped off, and their photo, their work on T-shirts and things sold by other people. Yeah, it's when you sent me the email, the thing this morning, I had thought I had not done it.
That and Maddie, so just for context,
Yeah.
folks, he's really good about researching and sort of checking stuff out. And when I saw that, I'm like, that's how easy it is.
Oh yeah.
That's how easy it is because it looks authentic and it looks.
Yeah.
And the other person appeared to be a trustworthy source.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, have you run into that? Because Paul creates a lot of content.
Oh, absolutely. When when you create something for somebody as a creator, you expect that version reflects what you created. So I've had people take a video that I've created for them, and then they'll re-edit it, and it'll be washed out, it'll look terrible, it won't have the same music, or it won't, you know what I mean? Like it's not what I produced. I just recently had this happen where I volunteered to help an organization, and I went in and took a bunch of professional pictures for a calendar they were producing. And sent them all the images. When I saw the calendar, they had taken my images and they had slapped a bunch of clip art all over and done like really gaudy edits to some of them. But then the very back of the calendar is a half-page thing saying, thanking Creation Design for, and I didn't see this till the calendars were all sold and out in the thing. I was devastated. It was awful. I mean, yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. It's like, still.
I was like,
oh no. It's like
my
the
heart?
Australian.
I gotta find my
Oh
heart.
no.
Hang on. Which side is your heart on? Isn't your heart on your left?
aren't you the medical person?
I know.
So we're gonna do the segment now of the show where we talk about where biology is. We learn something new each time.
No,
So I just wanted to say one more thing about that.
Yes. Okay, Paul.
It's societal now. People don't see it as a problem. One of the biggest pet peeves I have is when I'm spending my good time doom scrolling and watching Instagram reels, and it's these reaction videos where somebody will take somebody's funny content, somebody posts some funny reel, and they'll repost it with them like off in the corner going,
"Oh yes, I don't understand."
Right? The original creator of that video doesn't get the credit for all those views. They get all the credit for all those views because they go, whatever, off in the corner of the same video.
Yeah.
It's stealing.
They don't add to anything.
Stealing.
Yes, I had the same thought, and it's what I'm looking at now. Again, not our topic.
You're getting me riled up now.
There we go. What's that? Sorry.
You're getting me riled up.
Well, I'm going to give you another one. So I enjoy the odd YouTube. So we do want to clarify, and Sydney and Maddie and I did a session on this around doom scrolling versus scrolling, right? So, and the reason that this is important is that a lot of folks, I do it. So there's no shame in anybody. Doom scrolling is when the content reaffirms negative situations, right? So if you're always looking at stuff that reaffirms, bad thoughts, bad ideas, bad people, like whatever that is, if there's actually proven science somewhere, and I'll leave it to the Neurospicy team who will now investigate, that it's also about the time. If you spend an hour and a half flicking through whatever, okay, like that's not great. That's not great for your brain. That's not great for a whole lot of stuff. But it's proven now that if you time it and you do it for like 10 minutes, it actually, especially if you're neurodivergent, it actually gives your brain a break to then be able to go back and work, right? So I do that, Paul. I'm a flicky gal because it gives my ADHD a little dopamine hit, and then I can focus for a short period of time. My question to you, as a video creator, I'm now seeing all this AI content where casts of movies, then and now, and all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, So are the people that like the actors and actresses, or I guess actors is now are they getting anything out of this? Because you're making a crap ton of money, showing the cast of Lost Boys and showing, and at first I thought it was really cute.
Yeah.
I think 3 out of the 4 of us are Gen X or Gen X adjacent, and then we have the lovely Sydney, who's not quite Gen X. She's an honorary Gen X. They could be Gen X if they really apply.
She's Gen Extra.
Oh, I like that T-shirt. So we grew up with a lot of that content. We grew up with Happy Days and like whatever those were at the time.
It was the age of syndication.
It was the age of syndication, but now these content creators are taking these images and using AI to make content out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who originally created the content are getting jack and squat out of it.
Yeah.
Almost like AI has given permission for people to, well, I tweaked it a bit. I think it was both Maddie and Sydney said something about taking off the brand, like that slight tweak, and people feel like they now own it.
Yeah.
That's not the case, folks.
Yeah, there's also where you get a clip of a TV show, you get the first 15, 20 seconds, and then it breaks into one of the actor's voice narrating or summarizing the clip, and it's because then it becomes fair use, but it's from a legal perspective. But I realize this is not the actor's voice, and this is what they're all against right now. This is what they've been afraid of, is their work taken out of context and being created with something else that A, they're not making any money for, B, they have no control over the voice. And it's
people think because it's not racist stuff or negative or hate that it's okay.
Yeah.
That was part of what the fear was that somebody's voice, there's somebody circulating, for an example, right now, and it keeps showing up in my feed and I've blocked it. And it is so I follow Brene Brown. I just think she's fantastic. And one of her phrases, in the absence of data, we tell ourselves stories. I use that constantly. And I try and give credit as much as possible. Most of the folks that I say it to generally don't know who Brene Brown is. That's not the point. I didn't come up with it. I'm just using it in a different format. She is a world-renowned researcher in vulnerability and shame and processing feelings and all this kind of stuff. She cusses. She's Southern. I love her. And somebody has slapped her name on an app for productivity or whatever. And her face looks like they've even got an image of her.
Oh, goodness.
Right. It's slightly tweaked. So you can tell it's not her if you know who it is. And I was like, you stinkers. Like, anyway, I could use other language, which
this has been an interesting episode.
Aware that was tidy for me. Okay, so voices is in an important thing, and maybe instead of our original, and I don't normally do this, but since we're speaking about voices, would we all be comfortable in moving into advocacy at work? Would that be something we would be comfortable, or should we go to our chunking topic?
I'm good with talking about that topic.
You need to pick.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
The new one.
Yeah,
let's
do that.
The new one.
We can do this or that. Exactly. We'll do that.
That's great.
There we go.
The new topic you said.
Advocacy?
Yes. I would rather do that.
You'd rather do advocacy?
No, that one.
That one.
Now Paul's just being silly.
I haven't had enough coffee.
I just want to say that I'm not the most sassy today amongst this bunch.
I do believe we need to put like a pin in a wall or something to mark this day, because both Paul and Sydney showed up with their sassy pants on and had sassy flakes for breakfast. It's pretty awesome. I am loving it.
I'm just the marshmallow on top of the cereal.
Who puts marshmallows on their cereal? Sorry for the
Lucky
segue.
Charms,
Lucky Charms?
Ew.
They're magically delicious? Did
They're
we start
magically
off saying this is magically delicious?
Blueberry, Frankenberry.
Oh, yeah,
No.
so many.
No,
That's my
That
childhood.
is not.
That's why I'm.
no. My childhood was Mini Wheats, Weetabix, Raisin Bran.
Yeah, Mini Wheats actually was my favorite of all of them.
My dad worked for Kellogg's. So,
Go figure.
Oh, so
You would've
flakiness comes by nature.
100%. Oh,
Exactly.
yeah. We were one of the first families, by the way, to try, this was pre-anaphylaxis, honey nut cornflakes. We were one of the test families for that. Anyway, speaking of voices, one of the things that each of us in our own way has begun exploring is advocacy, either self or for a cause or for an organization or whatever that looks like. And this is in Sydney. Well, no, Sydney's had to do that. You've had to do this for yourself and for your parents. Each of us have either had to do it for ourselves or our kids, like whatever that looks like from a neurospicy lens. So when we look at advocacy, I would love to hear what each of you, what's your definition of advocacy? Sydney? Or do you want a moment?
That's a big question.
It is a big question. Chunk it down.
It's a good. It's a
topic.
Oh.
What's that?
Nothing. Sorry,
So,
it was a.
yeah, if we
Sassy
chunk down
slip?
our advocacy, we get
No.
both this and that.
Apparently. Okay. So Maddie, you have been, from my relationship with you for the past, I guess, 6 years now, one of the most vocal advocates in a positive way, folks. What would you say are the top 3 things that you advocate for?
Okay, so I think the biggest thing I advocate for is changing the language you use when it comes to disability, when it comes to autism, changing perspective, because it shifts. If you shift negative words like somebody's being non-compliant, and you talk about them instead having challenge with inclusion, like that's I think for me has been the biggest thing that I advocate for, language. And I think I think the other thing that I advocate for is for people to include at the table or in their planning those who are going to be affected by whatever decisions that you're making. So, I mean, I don't consider myself a self-advocate. Self-advocacy is a concept that is.
You pushed back against that one for a while.
Yeah, I have a challenge with advocating for myself. If I'm having problems, especially medically, I have a very difficult time in advocating for myself. But when it comes to somebody else, like I spent years, decades advocating for my parents and advocating for my kids, and and now my kids have been at the point where they're advocating for me when I have those challenges. I find that it's easier to address a system than it is to address your own individual challenge. Because with a system, you can have other people collectively adding to the voice, and the voice becomes louder, and that voice can be changed. So the other aspect of my advocacy is building up strong other advocates to be able to do that work, to understand where their own voice is and raising it.
See what I was writing down. I tend to take notes. Paul and I were just at an event last week, and I took 6 pages of notes. So, what struck me there, Maddie, because I've considered you, I conflated the two. And this is where I think it's an important distinction. That just because somebody is a good advocate doesn't mean they're good at advocating for themselves. My mom was like that. She, if anybody came after me, she was all over them. But if it was something to do with herself, she would always deflect, or like she didn't want to make a ruckus. Um, okay. And that's a huge thing to understand. We've talked previously about folks who are identified as bright in school, but also have a learning challenge. There's this conflation that because you're bright, the learning challenge shouldn't matter. You should be able to stay organized, and all these there's a lot of shit.
God.
And so just because somebody is really good at advocating for a cause or a movement or like whatever that is, or whatever type of change, we can't assume that they are also really good at self-advocating, which is a completely different beast. Likewise, if somebody's an advocate for a cause, we can't assume they need help either, right? Like there's that line of curiosity where we need to ask, how can I help you with this? Not let me help you with this. We can't assume any kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Incompetence.
Thank you. Well done. Okay. Sydney, are you ready to jump in about advocacy?
I think so.
Okay.
So I agree with Maddie, but I think in the past, I want to say 2 years.
Just a moment, Mr. Coleman. You're shuffling paper. You're shuffling paper or something?
Yes, I'm making a note because there's some point I want to make later.
Okay. Keep going, Sydney. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, so in the last 2 years, I think I've learned to also self-advocate, but it's a daily practice, and even as the different moments where I have to self-advocate, it's a choice. Like it's an active choice. It's an active choosing of myself.
T-shirt.
And for years, I would just advocate for others or advocate for causes. And I was always that kid that was, I used to want to be an environmentalist. So I would, was talking about the environment. And then I worked with kids, teens, and adults that also have disabilities, advocating on their behalf. And then 2 years ago, I was like, then I started my business. It's going to be 5 years ago. And even then I was like, mostly it's like, okay, I need to advocate within the workplace. I need to advocate for people like me that are also neurodivergent and are disabled. But I was like, wait a minute. I was burning out. I was, because I wasn't taking the time to actually advocate for myself and what I needed in those scenarios or what I needed in my everyday life. And so to me now, it's very interconnected. And understanding that if I don't advocate for myself, I won't be able to advocate for systems change or others because I'll be coming from a less full cup. And so that was really hard to learn because growing up autistic, I also experienced some abuse. I'm not going to get into that, but that also impacted how I view myself from a perception of myself. And so I thought I was only worthy if I was advocating for others. And so I think that's how I conflated it back in the day. And now I'm in a healthy relationship with Mike Gordon, as we talked about in other things. But finding ways
that call him Mike Gordon. Like, that's just so lovely.
And I just, even though I'm the youngest one on the team, I've gone through a lot of life and recognized what how I want to show up in the world. And that includes advocating for myself and advocating for others. And even like I advocate in organizations. I'm an external consultant sometimes, and I go in and audit policies and procedures. And so I work with the employees. I do focus groups to understand what those barriers are for them and where they exist and how to remove those barriers in the policies, because there's a lot of in that causes challenges for people advocating for themselves in the workplace. And so I'm trying to help remove those.
So I caught myself in something as you were saying that there. So I make a comment about the age gap, and that is far more to do with me than anything to do with Sydney. So first, sorry about that. And it's just acknowledgement that we have a situation within advocacy where somebody's time spent doing something gets weighed right? Like just because somebody is newer to a situation or whatever, in no way discounts their expertise and their experience. So it's more because as a Gen X, I periodically make references that date me publicly. But that in no way implies that Sydney's experience or their expertise or anything is it's all equal.
Yeah.
It's all equal. It's just different.
Yeah.
So Paul, from your perspective, because you've come at it, I would say a little differently. So I would love to hear your. He's looking at me like, "What do you mean by that?"
Differently? What do you mean by that?
Would you say that you began advocacy for your kids versus yourself? Like, would that be what brought you into it, or is there an advocacy journey that we need to talk about?
So in our family, my wife is the advocate. Like she is. I've watched her advocate for people. I think there's kind of a huge difference between advocating for rights or people as a whole for whatever it might be, right? Accessibility, advocating for accessibility. That serves a broader purpose. Advocating for your children is advocating for a third party and helping them out. And then you've got the self-advocation part. And one of the big things that I've always struggled with is, if my kids are struggling with something, if we're talking about like that more focused advocacy, if you as a child are focusing on or are having trouble with a teacher, having trouble with something that's not fair or not right that's happening, or unjust, you have your parents in a normal, healthy, in a normal way things should work, right? You have your parents or you have a guardian or somebody who will come in and help advocate for you because your voice isn't heard because you're a child. And then that kind of, same with the doctor. You go to the doctor with your parents, you go to the doctor. I mean, if I'm dealing with something that I need to talk to the doctor about, I will often bring my wife because she can absorb more and ask better questions, and she'll advocate for healthcare. I watched it with my mom when my mom was sick. There's nobody I would want in my corner better than my wife. Like she advocated for my mom like crazy.
Firecracker. Colleen is awesome, and she takes no crap.
Yeah, but she does it. She's very graceful in the way she does it as well, though.
I don't mean that. Sorry, I don't mean that in any disrespectful way. But she cuts through to the heart of what's important.
Yeah, but the thing that's kind of struck me, just in listening to all this, is, we go from like having our parents or our spouses and everything there to advocate for us and help us through those kinds of things. It's such a completely different culture at work. Right. You can't bring your parents in. You can't bring your wife in, and HR is not going to advocate for you. They're advocating for the company. So you're kind of like, if you're not good at self-advocating, and I'm not talking about like the general, but like yourself, right? You see something unfair happening. I've often struggled with that. I've not walked away from jobs, but I've allowed things to progress and do things because I hate confrontations. And I see advocating as often as a confrontation. That's how I see it, right? It's not a conversation. To me, in my brain takes off and envisions this is going to become some big fight. I'm going through all the scenarios and then I just, I'd rather walk away from it.
I think that's an incredible insight, and that's something. So for me, and I get misty, so I apologize. And Maddie's somewhat used to it, but so growing up, I came out fighting. I came out with an extremely overdeveloped sense of injustice, and yes, that's been influenced by life and what have you. But I can remember being 7 years old and standing on the playground and taking somebody on who was twice my size because they were picking on somebody else. I mean, there was no way I was going to win. Let's just be clear, folks. I was like a little fairy elf sized person, and it didn't occur to me not to say something. And that got me in trouble over and over and over again, because either, to Paul's point, in school, I was always that kid asking why, or saying that's wrong or whatever. And instead of encouraging that curiosity or that perception, I was told to shut up and sit down. And so it really got me questioning, how do I advocate? I didn't know that word at the time. I didn't know what I was doing was that. Part of it could have been I was just a shit disturber. I mean, that would be a fair thing to say. But we go through phases in our life, like Paul mentioned, of what advocacy could mean. And I really liked what you said there, Paul, and I never thought about how much that mindset exists, where viewing advocacy can have that confrontation fear attached to it. I think that's a massive insight, because I wonder how many folk perceive it that way and don't want to move forward with it because confrontation is it's not something they're built to do.
Yeah.
And nothing wrong with that at all. So how, for myself, advocating for myself, I ended up always getting in trouble.
Right on. Hey, twinsies.
Right on brand, Elizabeth.
I mean, a type 8 personality. I mean, hello.
When your gastroenterologist tells you at 21 that you're an extreme type A, you know that is just your core. Literally, that's funny.
Yeah.
I punned
There's
without
a fire in your hair and a fire in your belly, and it's just, yeah.
There's all kinds of fire.
Yeah. And
part of that was I didn't want my kids to ever think they had to be quiet. And now I'm saying this out loud. Now I get why I was so fiery with teachers who told my kids to shut up or push back or tried to squash them down. I would get boots on, because I'm like, nobody's going to teach my kids that they don't have a voice. And my son came home one day in public school, and some kid had taken him and slammed him into a wall and tried to, it's not like West Side Story. It wasn't, sharks and jets or whatever, but he manhandled him in a way that he shouldn't have. And he came home and he told me about it. And I said, Lovey, that's his nickname. I said, we need to go and talk to somebody about this. What do you mean? I'm like, that wasn't okay. It doesn't matter what you did. Nobody has the right to throw you around. I said, so come on, shoes on. And luckily our school's within walking distance. And I walked back with him, and school staff were still there. And I said, we need to speak to somebody, like, now. My son was just essentially attacked or assaulted on your school grounds. And we need to chat about that. And so we're sitting down, and they turned to Thomas and they said, so what happened? And me being me, because there was a pause, jumped in. And my best day of my life. My autistic, ADHD, dyslexic, executive function challenged, memory challenged kid turned to me, put his hand up and said, Mom, stop. It's my story to tell. I'll take care of this. I got to tell you, I was busting. You are absolutely right, Thomas. And I shut my damn mouth for the rest of that meeting until I was asked to speak. And that's one of the proudest days of my life. That my then 9-year-old, he was 9, advocated for himself at that age, and I had managed somehow. Sorry, this is when you're raising kids that have challenges, and you've grown up with challenges, and you didn't understand your own challenges, and you were told to shut up all the time, when you see your kids not shutting up, it's a big thing. And I've seen how that's continued to positively impact my kids' life. And now, to Paul's point about the workplace, my daughter has had to advocate. She was in a very dangerous working position, and she got her sassy flakes on, and she called them out on it. And Thomas has been in work situations where he's had to advocate for himself as well. I just stop and think, to Paul's point, to everybody's point, how many folks don't advocate at work? And Paul and I focused on trades. How many times does that lead to injury? How many times?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm good.
One prime example I always see of that is with PPE in trades. Protective
gear.
Protective gear. Safety glasses, earplugs, all that kind of stuff. If you go to a huge company, like a major manufacturer, they dictate what they have to wear as far as PPE goes. The smaller the manufacturer, the less likely that they're dictating it, even though, there's rules and they should be following them. If I go into a shop floor, 90% of the time, everybody will be wearing safety glasses. If it's a smaller shop, you don't see ear protection. You won't see it.
No.
And
you'll see it, but you'll see it on a tool case sitting somewhere, not on
somebody's neck,
poster on the wall.
Yeah. And I often wonder, is that, are people just scared to advocate for themselves? Is it an education piece? They don't understand that, 90 decibels over an 8-hour workday, 5 to 7 days a week, is going to kill your hearing.
Yeah.
It's a subtle thing, right? That you lose ranges, you lose slowly. So they don't. I understand that, that's why I think maybe it's an education piece, but it's also a peer pressure thing.
Yeah,
it's a cultural thing too. You're tough, you don't need ear protection and whatever. And it's like,
nobody else is wearing them. Are you gonna, you're gonna be the guy, the weird guy walking around with the ear protection on?
Yeah,
and that makes it even more difficult for somebody who is maybe on the spectrum and has sound sensitivity, where good earphones would help them. If it's viewed as, the sissy thing to do or whatever, right? And, then it just makes it even more difficult for them to advocate for themselves in those types of situations, right?
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
I think the fear of losing your job because of the domino effect it has on everything is a big challenge. I also think that I think a lot of I would say most people don't understand their rights, and businesses either don't understand the responsibilities or know that their staff don't necessarily know their rights. And I see this in employment, but I also see this just in renting, for example. You're so afraid of losing your place that and you don't know your rights, that you'll let landlords do things that are inappropriate, and landlords don't know their responsibilities or know that most of the tenants don't do it. And the fear of losing job and home are the two biggest things.
Maslow's hierarchy.
Yes. Exactly. So
for some
the
folks
fear
who
holds you back. Yeah.
Oh yeah. For a lot of folks. So folks, if you're new to what we're talking about, or you're new to the neurodivergent employment situation, which is
I didn't
predominantly
understand. It's time to stand up and stretch. Let's take a break for 10 minutes.
Okay, sorry, podcast pause so that we have to move. But in general, autistic people in particular, poor Paul's like, I don't know what to do with you people.
I was like, why am I here?
there's upwards of 75% unemployment or underemployment with
Yes.
the autism community in particular.
Yeah.
And when we go into the broader neurodivergent community, it's still around a 50 to 60% rate, where I work with somebody right now who is part of our Employment Works program, and they came into the program for support, got a job. Fantastic. Lasted 6 weeks. Came back into the program, got a job. Fantastic. Lasted 4 weeks. Came into the program, got a job. And so, Maddie, to your point, I think employers, one, don't understand how to properly support people who are neurodivergent. They have Paul and I ran into this. They have an accommodations policy in place, but it's up to the individuals who have run into a variety of challenges with advocating to advocate for the accommodations. And then for individuals who are neurodivergent, and this is some, not all, we never ever speak in absolutes, getting that job took so long, or they've gone through so many jobs where it's been a loop of getting canned or whatever, that they're so afraid of losing the job, they will put up, like to Paul's point earlier, when's the time to walk away?
Yeah.
If you can't put food on your table,
Yeah.
and there's no supports in place, are you going to advocate for the fact that you need earphones? Are you going to advocate for the fact? I was so proud. Like Sydney, the other day we were on a meeting, and Sydney's like, I need to walk it off today, so I'm going to be camera off and whatever. I was like, fantastic. How many people at work would advocate for a walking meeting? But maybe that's how they process better.
I prefer rolling ones, but that's just me.
Whatever the movement is, my friend. Embrace the movement.
I just wanted to add to the points you just made, Elizabeth. Yeah, because I work with companies and individuals, so it's been really interesting to see. And like you were talking about the accommodation policies, a lot of times they are very bare bone. It's very basic. And so, or it's more on physical accommodations, which is important, but forgets the mental health and neurodivergent lens. And so I've been trying to help companies with that, which has been really cool. And then I remember I was coaching in an organization, and there was this she's a mom, and she had just been diagnosed with ADHD. Her daughter also has ADHD. And she was so scared of advocating. And so that's why she booked a meeting with me to figure out, it's like, what does it actually mean to advocate? What tools, what can I actually ask for at this organization? Because there's so much lack of clarity, right? And it's, again, she was at the organization for, I think she said 25 years. And she started this journey of understanding her neurospiciness and being ADHD. And it's just, there's so much work to be done, because to really understand, what does it mean to advocate? What are the tools? What does it actually look like in the organizations to actually accommodate someone and to support someone? And so, and even I think right now employers and organizations, they're focusing, if they're just looking at that awareness piece, and that's a crucial first step. But what do those actionable steps look like every day? What does that daily look? What does it look like daily? What does it look like? And really provide, and what do those daily supports look like? And those resources. And that's a huge gap that I'm seeing time and time again when it comes to advocacy in the workplace.
And I think
that's what Paul and I have seen with, sorry, I know I jumped in on the pause. But Paul and I have seen this with companies through the project that we've been working on for a couple of years around manufacturing and trades, is that employers think having the policy in place is enough.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we have that. Okay. Yeah. Are your employees aware of it? Well, yeah, they were asked.
They're aware. Sorry.
The microphone.
If you didn't see those air quotes, then you're not watching the video, and
the bunny rabbits are flying around right now.
They're everywhere. So having the policy, folks, is not enough. What needs to happen, one of the things we've identified, is during the interview process, It needs to be put out there right away. Hey, we have an accommodations policy. I'm not saying you need it, but if you do, here's what the process is. Here's the clear person to go to. Here's where you can access the policy on our intrawebs or like whatever you got going on. And then like no harm, no foul if you access it. Like it needs to be. I really loved that you shared that, Paul, around the perception of advocacy involving confrontation. Like I can't tell you how much I appreciate that because it was you. And then Sydney added on top of that, and Maddie is a huge believer in process and understanding policy and what have you. And when we don't understand our rights, we don't understand the policy, we don't have clarity, like Sydney said, then we don't know where we stand, which always creates fear. And fear, I think, is what builds this perception of confrontation when we're asking for something for ourselves.
Yeah. And I think one of the challenges,
that was really long, but
one of the challenges that, one of the things I've been really actively pushing organizations, businesses is, you need to have plain language versions or summaries of thick textual documents that may have your policies. There needs to be a multimodal. Make a video. Have intersperse graphics alongside the text, because there you can be extremely intelligent but have a very difficult time reading, making sense of stuff in that may use text or definitions that you're not aware of, and the fear of having a feeling that you're stupid or whatever because you've heard all these things in the past, can prevent you from asking, and it just keeps you in that cycle of not knowing. It's
that cycle of not knowing.
Yeah.
T-shirt, like that's so.
Quick note, I encourage when I work with companies on policies to have a definition section of those keywords that are used in that policy. And some companies do that, so but it's like you should have a definition section in the policy, and
and define all the acronyms. It's becoming more common. The alphabet soup of acronyms that each company has. That every company's got.
It was a lot deeper than a manual or these policies that are put in front of people. It's so much of a culture. Like you can have a thing in your manual that says, we allow so many mental health days a year, right? But it's when somebody actually needs, and maybe somebody who does, you wouldn't even suspect, takes a mental health day. How is that looked upon by your coworkers, by your manager, by everything else? Just because the company says, we give mental health days, when that person comes back, or how many people are scared to take that mental health day because of the way it'll be viewed by the people that they're working with, and the culture that's in that company. So it's a lot deeper than policies. Yeah, and then you have the other side of that, right? Where we all have worked with people who will, know they get 12 sick days a year and 3 mental health days, and they've got a chart somewhere where they're charting when they can take those, right? And they're using every single thing that they can to their advantage. So, it goes both ways, but, that's...
Yeah. My husband worked with a lot of folks that had that. So my husband's in trades, has worked in a lot of unions, and the event that Paul and I were at last week, a conversation about unions began. And if you're in trades or you're working in a manufacturing role, there's a lot of, there's also teaching. There's also a lot of positions that have unions attached to them, right? There's a lot of that in healthcare. There's all of that. When we started talking at the beginning, we started talking about stealing people's voices and, creating a voice out of other people's content. And then we started talking about what that voice meant to us and how we've used it in a variety of ways. And we as content creators, of course, are, proud of what we do and don't want people pilfering it. And we kind of started branching into, how does that voice relate to advocacy? And the difference between self-advocacy and advocacy for a cause, that can be a whole nother podcast on its own, because I think everybody on here has had a moment where it's way easier to advocate for somebody else or a cause or a policy or whatever than it is to be vulnerable and put our own needs out there. Why that's important to us is because when we look at the workplace, where that advocacy voice begins is in childhood, is in the school system, is in how our parents show up and either support our voice or do they become our voice, right? In some cases, parents do have to become the voice. There's something in play that, isn't going to make that completely successful for the individual. And we're not going to let our kids suffer through everything. Like I'm not a helicopter parent. I'm kind of the opposite. Like, what's the opposite of a helicopter parent? I'm the FAFO as a parent. I am the
That
not wrong. Like, I'll let you go do your thing. Like, please go do your thing. I'll be right behind you. I want you to try. I want you to find your way. But God help anybody. God help you. And I mean that with all the respect in the world, but God help you.
I may know what I need to get you now.
Well, we'll figure out that later. So then we move into how this all impacts at work, because Paul made a valid point that it is about culture. Who's forming that culture? What's the view on advocacy, right? What's the view on mental health? And Gen X, got to tell you, because that's the only generation I can speak for, other than whatever my parents were, like my parents were boomers. I was joking. I have friends for over 45 years, which makes me incredibly proud because I'm a difficult person to be friends with, to be honest with you. I struggle with being blunt, and I struggle with wanting to overfix things. And there's a lot of stuff that can make me a challenge to be a friend. And I have always been amazed at how 45 years later, I have friends from when I was 8-9 years old. I'm like, really? You hung around? Like, good job. Like,
kudos to them.
There should be a trophy for hanging out and putting up with my personality. I totally forgot where I was going. Oh my God, that was such an ADHD moment.
You were coming full circle. You were coming full circle.
I was trying, and now I've lost the thread. I went into a bit of a weird spin there. Okay, anyway.
Memories.
When we look at work, if we don't encourage, and Paul made a really valid point that when his wife goes in and advocates, I think the word, like you said, there's grace around how she advocates. Maddie and I have often had this conversation where if you are always a tank, like you can't always be a tank when you're advocating.
Yeah. Yeah.
You gotta, there's an image somewhere of a flower in the gun of a tank. Sometimes folks, you got to bring a bouquet to the conversation. Like you can't be always on the defensive and always angry about whatever you're advocating for. That voice really matters.
Yeah.
So not only encouraging it and developing it and giving it opportunities to come out.
Yeah.
But asking for that support and what have you. I don't know where my little friend thing went. It's so weird.
There's a fine line between doing advocacy and shifting to activism. And advocacy, if advocacy is about finding the solution to a known problem, activism is about being loud about the problem. I find advocacy is where change can get made because you're trying to find, and it can be difficult, it can be rough, and you need to be blunt. Yeah, but you're coming in with a solution in mind or a solution mentality.
Yes.
Right. Activism is where you're really stuck and focused on the problem. Both are necessary, But
Yep.
when you're trying to make things change, advocacy is the path to making it happen.
And I think that distinction at work is huge, because if you go in, thank you so much, Maddie. That's a wonderful way to wrap up, because if you go in with an activism mindset, I think there's two ways it can go from what I've heard from everybody, and I'll try and stay on track. I haven't had enough coffee or something.
Here.
Shit. Mr. Dressup's got half calf in him, but yeah, I need to go full strength for this. When you're advocating at work, your needs have to absolutely be considered. A company cannot put a policy out and then not expect you to access it, right? If there are mental health days or whatever, that shame culture becomes a real problem, because if you've struggled to get a job and keep a job, then you're not going to take those days, because unfortunately, we didn't learn from the pandemic around taking care of ourselves when we're sick. And that can include a day that, if your mental health needs some care, right? That's equally important to having COVID from my perspective. If you don't watch your mental health, you will burn out. And then I wonder if that's where it goes from advocacy to activism, is that you're so burned out that now, like, you're gonna burn the world down to get what you need, because you weren't allowed to advocate before.
Yeah.
You now have advocacy influenced by a burned out individual.
Yeah.
There's so much in there.
Yeah.
I think advocacy versus activism is something that we see a lot in the neurodivergent community. And that's a huge distinction to make. So if we were to wrap up quickly, now that we've had the discussion, what would you say? The question at the top of the hour was, when you look at your voice, what would you say now you would use your voice for? What's your thing you want to use your voice for? It can be anything. Oh yeah,
what I want to do, is help other neurodivergent folks learn this, to enable them to use the voice that I've learned how to use. I see that with my daughter, my youngest daughter, as she has been empowered to use her voice and take ownership of some of the challenges that she has herself. I've never been, like, when you were in tears earlier, but it was triggering thoughts about how my daughter's journey has been. This is the struggle. I think that's one of the largest struggles that neurodivergent folks have is understanding they have a voice, learning how to use the voice, and being, and then learning how that can be collectively bringing the system problems to be able to be involved in tackling the system problems. I want to help people. I want to help those learn what I've learned.
That's very cool. Anybody else?
So I there's twofold for me. Okay. One, I would like to see find a way or work out a way to create opportunities for people on the spectrum to get away from this 75% unemployment, right? So create opportunities. But I think a big way of doing that is that I want to educate. I want to change the culture at workplaces and trades. I want to remove the barriers that are there. So not so much working with individuals, but working on the broader picture.
I love that. And we're doing that, which is amazing. And we're starting to see, when we started having this conversation in 2018, 2019, and I will have an eye moment. I'm not really great at that. I'm not really great at stuff. Nobody was talking about it. And it was specifically within manufacturing and trades. Nobody was talking about neurodivergence. Nobody was talking about how the workplace culture is negatively impacting the growth of the workforce. Nobody was talking about the neurodivergent talent pool and how valuable it is. And in less than 6 years, we've seen, I think Paul and I would agree, we've seen a huge surge. Huge relative to nothing in that conversation. But now I wonder about the voices involved and what their agendas are. And are they truly on the side of the neurodivergent individuals, or is it getting a little murky with giving companies excuses to tick a box on having a DEI policy, and that's enough? Right? It's just like if you are heavily involved in research. I have a huge issue with spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on research, and then it sits there and that's nothing. Sydney?
Yeah. I think I want to use my voice to help remove organizational barriers, but I also want to help other neurodivergent and disabled folks know that that our needs are ever evolving and changing, and then that's okay. Because for me, I was just like, what do you mean I have different needs every day? And that was really hard to... And sometimes I have more sensory challenges, sometimes I have more physical challenges. And so just being okay in how to find your voice that can stand strong every day while navigating those challenges.
Yeah. I loved what you said at the beginning about choosing yourself as a choice that you make every day. I love that. And I think that's something that we need to encourage from a very young age, is that compliance creates risk. And compliance stops us from remembering that it is important for us to choose ourselves.
Yeah.
That was awesome. All right. Any last wise words, or we're good? We've been wise. We've cried, laughed.
We've laughed. We've cried. It moved me, Bob.
What is that?
VeggieTales.
VeggieTales? I love VeggieTales. We used to watch VeggieTales all the time.
Yeah.
It's a good show. If you haven't watched it, I'm in trouble right now, by the way, folks, for not having watched friggin' Matilda. So now over the weekend, I have to read. I know, lost my mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
I might have watched it years ago with my kids, but that big mean lady with the big mole, like, she scared the crap out of me.
Trenchbull?
This is Trenchbull.
Yeah, I don't know. She scared me. So I'm sure I have watched that with my kids. But
that's why I was shocked. That's why I was so...
Yeah.
But I will commit to you by our Monday
in the Gemini notes.
So it must be law.
It must be true.
True. That I will watch Matilda before Monday.
All right.
And possibly read the book.
Yeah. It's a real gem.
I'm sure there was a pun there somewhere. But
Gemini, Google, gem.
Yeah. Oh, well done. Okay. Thank you, folks. If you have been struggling to find your voice, I hope this has given you some ideas. And I hope you know there are people on your side who want you to find your voice. If we've helped in any way, awesome. That's our goal. And we'll see you next week.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Paul's gone quiet. No more sassy flakes from Paul. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. Hey, this is Elizabeth Blue from Spiro, Canada, one of your pirates on the Riff Raff podcast team. My fellow pirates include Maddie Dever from Autistic Bridge, Sydney Elaine Butler from Accessible Creates, and Paul Coleman from Creation Designs, who is our very own Arctic LARPing Santa. Thank you for joining us on the Neurospicy Seas, and we wish fair winds to you all.